Hi,
Oh,
friends.
hi, it's me again.
We're back. Welcome back to our living room.
Yes, I'm still here.
So, part two. Part one, last week we talked about kind of this trending spirituality, how suddenly everyone's into crystals and everyone's dressing like a boho goddess. And like, where's your hat? Where's your full tribal tattoos? Where are your many, many necklaces?
Uh-huh.
And that there's a certain projection um, as we're on this path and the ways that we try to present as maybe more spiritual or part of a certain club, part of a certain group that does this, monetizing on the spiritual
Right.
journey, all these things that create the distorted energy around what was originally intended to be an individual's healing journey. So this week, yeah, and also maybe receiving feedback from the world or from others that this is a selfish journey, that this is narcissistic, egocentric, and it very much can be that. But
And
and so
and so and
so
so.
when are we as individuals, if we're trying to create that balance of yes, I'm doing the inner work, I am focusing inward on myself, I'm filling my own cup, and we want to be of service.
And that's an interesting thing right there. I used to think like everybody wanted to be of service and everyone should want to be of service. And that's not even true. Like, not everybody's called to service.
Right.
And so my sister said that to me once. She was like, Julie, not everybody here is like trying to be a better person and
Right.
and be ideally. I guess I don't even know why I bring that up because I think some people might be judging themselves because
Mm,
they're quote not being of service because they can barely take care of their own basic needs,
exactly.
so I don't want anyone to hear this of like if you're sitting around not wondering how to be of service, what's going on with you? It's like
Right.
maybe you're just trying to get food on the table for the kids and hold your marriage together, not lose your job, or you found out your parents are sick and someone's died. I mean, you just,
And that is service in my mind.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
we think, oh, service is only on some national or
right,
global
right.
level, and it's
Or
like,
to people we don't know.
right, strangers, charity. That's
Right,
charity.
right, right,
Charity is different than service. Service can be to your partner.
right,
Service can be to your children, your pet.
right,
To me, it's services anytime that we're taking that healing energy that we're using on ourselves and turning it outward to the perceived other.
right.
So I think for us, it's a great place to start. If you are feeling the call for service, what are some of the reasons we dive into service? And you're right, there are different people wired in different ways. And we
Right.
used to learn in church about there's like all these spiritual gifts outlined in the New Testament. And it's like, which one is your spiritual gift? It's similar to like, what's your love language?
Okay.
And one
Okay.
of the love languages is acts of
The service.
service.
Right.
One of the spiritual gifts is service. So some people
Right.
are truly wired, and you know them. They're just the givers. Like their heart is just constantly wanting to give and help and nurture. And then there are other people, and I am hardwired the opposite way, where maybe I'm a little more individual. I'm a little more. I don't love large groups. I love my own,
Mm-hmm.
space.
Surprising.
I know I do love my large
Pretty
groups.
surprising because I'm like, wait, to me, like just watching you, I had the pleasure of watching Claire teach a class, literature class, and there were probably 20 people there, and I could feel your energy and I could feel how much you were energized by the numbers of people.
Yes.
So I'm surprised to hear you say that because I personally feel like I shine one on one with
Oh,
people.
okay.
Like I super shine one on one.
So is that interest? So does that kind of, because you're right, I do gain a lot of energy from a
You do,
group,
yeah,
sometimes borderline can be drained by the group, you know,
And
it's
you're pumped up by it. Like when
oh
we got
yeah.
in the car, you're like, I gotta switch gears. Like, you're energized by that.
Yeah.
And
But maybe that says something about my service,
sure,
you
of
know, and
course
if
it does.
you're like my service is going to be much more individualized, it's going to be on a one-on-one.
I feel like I shine in the one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I also feel as if I so much value the depth of that one-on-one connection. Like watching you in that class, the biggest moment for me, if I had been you in your shoes, was when Janet came at the end of the class and you had this one-on-one exchange. She clearly wanted to connect with you a little more deeply.
Yeah.
She shared a little bit of vulnerability. That would have been the part where I would have been like,
Yes.
that's where I feel something.
Which is funny because when I look back on that class, what really sparked was when everyone was participating in discussion. When I'm like, okay, you and you and you and you, when it's like everyone's here together. So that, I mean, that's just so beautiful because it speaks to like we need all kinds of servants,
Totally.
and and we're all maybe bringing different gifts and natural inclinations, and that can be a guide of how you are being called to show up in the world in service.
Right.
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But well, let's go back a little
Okay,
bit
yeah. Let's go
and maybe
back.
think about some examples that we've seen or in our own lives that, you know, different intentions for service.
I've got a story.
Yes, please.
Imagine that. So I I got pregnant when I was 19 or 20, somewhere in that range. And I was pretty much asked to leave my parents' home. And I was cut off of my father's insurance, and pretty much left to my own devices. And yet my mother worked at Birthright Counseling, which, if those of you don't know Birthright, it is for
Wow.
unwed, unplanned pregnancies. And people would go in to get counseling for their unplanned pregnancy.
Was it Catholic based? Like it was pretty much like don't get an abortion,
It was basically don't get an abortion, um,
but we'll help you.
but we'll help you. And
Yeah.
we want to counsel you during this very difficult time where you have an unplanned pregnancy. Here's the great news was I wasn't going to have an abortion. So my mom had nothing to fear there. Like didn't need to go get counseling about that. I was going to keep the baby. So my mom was being of service. She was literally being of service. She got some big award handed to her at the Ritz Carlton at a very fancy dinner. And it's like, but your own daughter was kicked out of your house.
Mm.
So my mom got awards for service. And I'm not saying my mom is a bad person. My mom did so many wonderful things as a mother, but that to me felt like that service was about my mom telling herself, like,
Mhm.
I'm a good person and other people see me as a good person. So, like, who were you serving there? I don't really know.
Well, how much easier is it to serve a stranger than your family or your friends? People who are deeply close,
Right.
bringing up your own wounding patterns.
Right. I brought great shame. And when they found out I was pregnant, my mom turned to my dad when I told them, and she said, don't worry, honey, we'll get through this. And I'm like, you two
Wow.
are going to get through this?
Wow.
But me and the baby are kicked out? And so sometimes that's my lens when I see people like, oh, I'm of service. I'm of service. I kind of want to be like, that's great. And I'm not going to put that lens on everybody. But that was my mom. She hadn't healed all of her pain in there. She just hadn't. And
Mm.
so I don't know. I don't even know why I brought up that story, but why are you serving?
Yeah.
What is that about? Who are you serving?
Well, and you even think about, and servants are so stereotypically burnt out. They burn themselves out.
Right.
If, especially people who are just called to service, which I even think of like nurses and A friend of ours works in like a recovery house. I don't know,
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
peer support specialist
Right.
for those struggling with addiction and being displaced. And ironically, so many of these people who started out with the beautiful heart and intention
Right.
of like serving a very vulnerable population, they get into it and they realize how fucking hard and dark this is, and then it's like they kind of take on, instead of being that light, I truly believe many people go into those situations being
Right.
like, I'm going to be light, I'm going to be encouragement, and they end up taking on or just kind of absorbed by the darkness of the population they're trying, not even the population, the systems in place that are against them, and you know
Well, those who are called, I think, to like real authentic service are often empaths. And
yes,
empaths have a tendency to feel the suffering of others. And until someone is able to hold that intact resonant vibration with regularity, they will get drained. They
yeah.
will burn out.
So that's a great question. If you do consider yourself, and maybe let's just define empath for people first, but if you consider yourself an empath and you want to be of service, we don't love the concept of like protection,
Right.
but there is a certain level of protection, versus a wall that a lot of that's what we see when people get burned out. Then they have to put up a wall so they're not feeling
Right.
it.
Right.
And then they come off really cold hearted, jaded, cynical.
Right.
So,
Right.
what is an empath to do in service?
It's interesting because I just said how much I really love one on one connections, right? I would never be a therapist.
How come?
I would be drained. I know that if every day, basically 9 to 5, I had this revolving door of people dumping problems, sadness, sorrow, loneliness, I know that would what that would do to me. And people have said to me like, "Oh my God, you'd be such a great therapist," right? And I probably, but it wouldn't be good for me. So you have to know yourself.
Know your
Like you have to
limitations.
know yourself. And so this friend of ours who's doing it is such a beautiful, beautiful human, but she's pretty close out of being in her own challenges. And so it's like, it takes a while for the body to fully restore energetically and then to be able to access that vitality every day. It's always available no matter what happens. It's there for me because, I've tapped into that. But
Mm.
I think it's very difficult to go into those kind of fields as an empath when you're really young. um God, yeah, I mean, I don't think I could do that
No.
job and not really have it start to kind of feel heavy on me.
Well, and a lot of times when we do get into our service mode, I think if you've got that bleeding heart, like you just feel for
Hmm.
people, then there's this tendency to kind of take on the weight of the world. And it's almost, for some people it's different reasons, but I do kind of resonate with that. Well, if I'm so strong in my light, I can take it. I can hold it. And it's like, why? It's almost that Jesus, that Christ,
Right.
like I'll be some sort of sacrificial lamb, and in actuality, again, where is that coming from? A an inflated sense of self,
Right.
or guilt. Right now we've got all this stuff going on with Israel and Palestine, and we see, maybe you've seen stuff all over social media. It's like, you need to, people telling us what we need to do in the face of global crisis, right? Hawaii was the same thing. Help support the people behind that. These are beautiful sentiments and beautiful causes that we want to support. And then it's also like, where does it stop? Where do we I don't know.
Energetically, I believe we are not meant to hold in our field of awareness the trauma of the entire world every day.
But we do now because
We
of
do.
news and social media.
And that's where, I don't watch the news, and I am not able to radiate joy and vitality and a healing vibration holding all that tar. I was really bummed that Lahaina stuff. I think because I had spent quite a bit of time in that area, and I got really,
You felt
I
it.
felt it, and it's okay to feel things, but then we got something right after that, and then we got something right after that, we got something right after that, and
It's nonstop.
so ow,
Do we just stay? And people do. That's why people you talk to some people and they're like, the world is ending. And I'm like, I mean, I kind of feel that, but I would say it in a different way. But they are carrying the weight of the world because they've believed, I think, this lie that it's like, if you're woke enough, if you claim to be a spiritual person,
right.
then you better be supporting. You better feel a certain way about this. This is what you're expected to do. You need to find out which indigenous land you're on. You need to support Black female owned businesses. Now we're sending money. It's like, how do we, these are all wonderful things.
And it comes back to the self, right? Which
Yeah.
is so crazy because you don't want to be because we can't support it all. We can't. But you know what I can do? I can recognize when I'm judging someone. I can recognize when I'm out of alignment with integrity. I can recognize that in myself and try and get up the next day and do a little bit better, just be a little bit more aware or soft or patient. That's what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And to skip over all of that,
Right.
and do some big thing on social media to get money for Lahaina and start making everybody aware of that. It's like, okay. Yeah.
And then for me, it comes back to like, actually local. Local has been very prevalent on my mind recently. And in my yoga training, they ask you to kind of sit with that. Like, okay, you've just been given this beautiful information, this lineage of Kundalini yoga. What are you going to do with this now? How can you be of service with this? And so it just got me thinking, like, how can I, and even Julie and I have been talking in our own offerings and what we're building, like, how can we provide scholarship opportunities or do a free experience that people can be a part of, making our work available to as many people as possible. And in my mind, that's service in that way.
Right.
And it comes back to like, where am I planted and where is my heart calling me to? I don't feel a specific connection to what's happening in Israel right now.
Right.
Whereas someone who has family there or is deeply identified with the Jewish culture and community over, like, they're going to feel a different way about it, and it's appropriate for them to be involved. And if I were to reach out and be involved in some way out of guilt, feeling like, well, this is what we're doing now,
right?
I
don't want people to think I'm uncaring.
Yeah.
I don't want. It's like, and we talk about, like, Claire asked me once, kind of like, what did you call it? My field of, I don't remember, influence or whatever you said.
Yeah, circle of influence.
Or I don't,
sphere of influence.
And kind of who I'm hoping to. I don't know. I don't even want to say that, but it's my family. Like, so you're talking about your local community, right, and what can you do? And you're starting to think, how can I engage in my community? I have a big family. I come from a family of 7. Everyone's married. There's lots of kids. We have autism, a couple with autism. We have we have Tourette's, and then you have, in-law, people that have health conditions, and someone else just joined the convent, and like how that's created this ripple of loss in some ways. And, it's a lot in my family. And I do have the ability to be the expression of love. I do offer that to my sphere of influence or whatever, and then that ripples out. But if I try and take on Palestine and Israel and Hawaii, and God knows what else is coming for us, global warming, and I don't know if I'm supposed to eat this and I'm not supposed to eat this now, because what are they doing to the chickens? I don't know. It's just all too much. But what I do know is I can I can add light
Absolutely.
right here. And that is, bloom where you're planted, man. This is where you
Yeah,
are. This is
exactly.
what you're supposed to.
Yeah, and I guess it's just like feeling into what is your mission field? What is the mission field you're being called to? And for a long time it was students, right? It
Right.
was like seniors in high school. This is a demographic I feel deeply called to. I feel like I have good connection. I'm having an impact here. I don't need to go out and pretend that I'm being drawn to anyone else's mission field.
Right.
And that doesn't there's nothing
Doesn't
wrong
make
with
you a bad
you
person.
because your mission field is your family. That doesn't mean that we're not extending far enough
Way far beyond
for
that. It's just, this is what the universe is bringing to me right now.
yes.
And same goes with, a lot of my journeys. Oddly enough, there seems to be a lot of cancer. Cancer keeps coming to me, whether it's in clients or it's basically in clients. A lot of cancer. I didn't wake up one day and was like, you know what? I think I'm going to be of service to people with cancer.
Hmm.
Cancer is my thing. But the universe keeps bringing people to me that are struggling with, or a loved one
That's so
struggling with
interesting.
cancer. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I guess this is what is being asked of me. Like the universe is like, hey, here's
Right.
another. So now I'm like, okay, cancer seems to be a thing for me. You know what else? People dying. For whatever reason, I'm getting called in to people. I don't know why. It's not like I woke up and like, I want to help people transition. I want to help with cancer. So the world's gonna show you
Hmm.
what the world needs from you when that energy is there, and the universe can go, okay, she can handle a bunch of people with cancer right now.
Right.
I couldn't have handled that 5 or 10 years ago. I couldn't have.
That's a great point. That we're not even having to go search for our mission
No,
field. It will find
it
you.
will find you.
Yeah. And when we're coming from a place, if we think about our energy almost like a bank, right? And when we're depositing all this energy, all this cash into our bank account, then that is kind of a signal to the universe that, like, oh, this is a full bank account. Let's show an opportunity where there are going to be some withdrawals.
Right.
And now that you're in a place where you can do that, that benefits everyone involved versus people withdrawing from an empty bank account.
Or me giving away everything I have because I don't feel worthy.
Right.
Like, I'm going to do more. I'm going to do more. And that's been a lot of learning on in the last couple of years. Just because I can doesn't necessarily mean it's benefiting the other person or myself.
Yeah.
So, like, well, I can go be with this person every day as they're on their deathbed, but I don't really want to do it every day.
Right.
And that's okay to go, this is actually starting to impact my vitality. I'm not sleeping as well. But, the old me would have been like, what are you doing that you can't go be with this person every day? I mean, they're going to die in 2 months. So you can't for 2 months go every day and bring food, or you know what I mean? It's like when I go spend time in that capacity from a full cup, then I'm of service. But the minute my cup is draining and I'm like, ah, you need to go because it's the right thing to do,
Right.
I'm not offering a healing energy in that moment.
Right.
I'm just not.
Well, and then a lot of times that giving can come with like strings attached or expectations. You're like, and I've noticed this with friends even. It's like, um, if friends have given or extended themselves beyond what
Yeah.
their intuition was
Mhm.
actually telling them, then a lot of times people will project that back onto you and be like, well, I did this even though. So now there's an expectation of the return payment. And it's like, whereas when we give from a full cup, you can just freely give with no strings attached, no expectation. It's
Right.
not to get something. It's just like, nope, here you go.
Right. Right.
So,
Service.
service.
Service. But you know, I'm hearing right now, physician heal thyself. Like a doctor who's not healed, you know, cannot really heal others.
Yeah, you wouldn't go to a clearly sick
No,
doctor.
you wouldn't. You just wouldn't.
Even though them being sick isn't like something they've done.
Right. Right. But the greatest service to humanity is to access that love that's within ourselves. It radiates through us for ourselves, and then it just extends naturally, and we attract naturally. Those who are drawn to us are drawn into our sphere for a reason. Like I would have never gone out and pursued certain people that I'm going to influence. Like sometimes it's very surprising to me the people that are somehow drawn to me. And I mean, just even recently, you know, we got together with some of your people. I was surprised by someone who was there was a connection, and I could feel. I would never in a million years have been like, these are the type of people I'm going to serve.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck do I think I am? That I'm going to decide whom I serve,
Mm,
who needs me.
yeah.
Like, that's so kind of arrogant, right?
Right.
Like, people with cancer could benefit from a little time with me. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, and I'm bringing up now, this is bringing up like my old wounds around missions where there is the agenda that we would literally go on mission trips to like dun dun dun, dun the Americans are
Yeah.
here to save everyone with our
Oh,
Jesus,
ah,
and it's like, I've just learned so much more about service in the nature of service is what is needed in this moment, how can I provide what's needed in this moment, not what I want to give, not what
right.
my agenda is. I'm not trying to evangelize and bring you into some sort of club.
No, and think about that, right? We go in and we're gonna like build some homes for these people. It's like, how about we give them the tools and the power to never be homeless? And
Hmm.
it's coming from within them. And
But
like,
that's harder. That takes more time. That takes more energetic investment. It's much
totally.
easier to just like get a bunch of money, build a bunch of houses, which is also great and serves populations well.
Right, right.
But it's a band aid. It could be a band aid. A lot of charity is a band aid.
And ultimately I don't want any of my clients to need me.
Right.
I want people to recognize after spending a little time with me, they have everything they need inside of themselves. And creating a dependency,
Mhm.
that doesn't feel, but that's counterintuitive because if I'm trying to make money,
Right. You need him to come back over
just
and
keep
over.
coming. And it's like, no, I'm not really being of service that. You know what I mean? It's such a fine line. But I'm kind of, yeah, I mean, choosing your field of expertise is kind of hysterical, really. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well, and a lot of times people's field of service goes hand in hand with their purpose, like what they were called to do, even as their job.
right,
So,
right. Well, and we were talking this morning about the cats. So there's a lot of cats here. And Claire was gonna like, maybe get them fixed, maybe adopt them, all this. And so I walk in, I'm like, what are you gonna do with the cats? Because I'm thinking, I don't think I'd get rid of the cats. And we had this discussion. And she's like, I'm glad you're saying that because I don't really like, yeah, who the fuck do we think we are? That we're gonna be of service and get the cats really good homes. Like, what a freaking projection.
like, I know a better life for them, and it's not going to be frolicking through the trees in my backyard.
Right. And kind of, I think sometimes service can have that.
Because that's what I was told. That's what we're told. This is
Right.
what you do with feral cats.
Right, right. And this is, whatever, like our way, and somebody needs me. Like, how hysterical that, what was I going to do for Lahaina?
Throw some money at it, which we don't even know would get there.
And I mean, I really wrestled with that.
I know.
Like, I did wrestle with that. Like, what, I mean, how can I just do nothing? And it's like, well, because you don't live in Lahaina. And because you actually don't know anybody on the ground.
Mhm.
And
And I know it's kind of made fun of, like light and love, sending light and love. Like, truly, the power of prayer is
right.
infinite, and so that may seem like nothing, and unfortunately, it's been cliched, but it's not nothing.
It's
You know.
not nothing. It's not. So, yeah. Yeah. Did we say anything?
I guess just people looking for, and also I think throwing money at stuff assuages our innate need. When we see suffering, we want to make it better, we want to go do something, and sometimes the go and doing, it's more internal. It's
Well, and
more,
it's to relieve the pressure inside of us.
yeah,
Like,
you don't want to sit with that.
I was feeling a lot of like pressure, but if I had, like, well, I found the right organization and I sent them $1,000, so now everything's okay. Everything's still not okay.
It's still not okay.
It's still not okay. And so I then somehow make it about me and me being okay with what happened to the people in Lahaina. It's
Yes.
like, what are you doing right now?
And you'll know the different. It feels different when you're being called into service, with you're interfacing with the people that you're serving, versus, oh, where are we going to send our charitable donation this year?
There's a flow to it. The universe will show you the way. If I was supposed to do something for Lahaina, like literally, I'd be like, oh my God, I just got this postcard in the mail about this place in Lahaina. Like, the universe says, yep, 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 yep. Like, yep. And then you just follow that flow, follow that, follow the signs. I say I follow the breadcrumbs, like, um, and follow your heart. And a healed heart is a much better tuning fork or roadmap to where you're going.
And whatever mission field we find ourselves on, we don't get to decide if it's big enough, grand enough, well seen enough.
Right.
It's what's coming to us. It's
Right.
what's here for you, and you get to decide how you want to respond. So go be of service, or don't.
Yeah, buy a dream catcher or not. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, Julie has to go back. Well, she's going to go to Charlotte for a little bit.
I'm excited. I'm gonna see some people in Charlotte and do some journeys.
Did I say you have to go to Charlotte?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant she gets to go to Charlotte.
I'm excited.
But then you have to go home.
And then I have to, and that by the time I get to the end of Charlotte, I'll probably be like,
yeah.
I can't wait to go home. Isn't it funny how wherever you go, there you are,
And you're
like,
usually wishing you're looking at the next thing.
I know. Be like right in this moment, and right in this moment, it's been so nice being with you.
Oh, I've loved having you. She'll be back. She's coming back.
All right. Bye.
Bye, friends.